we have group fitness classes, and we were finding that there were some classes with kind of unusual names, or, they weren't your standard Zumba, bar, spin classes. And so people really didn't know what they weren't sure if they would be comfortable in the class. So we started doing very similar employee spotlights of our instructors for these fitness classes. And so we were finding that this worked in two ways. One, our potential participants were reading these spotlights and saying, oh, well, this instructor really loves Disney and I really love Disney, so this is something that I might be interested in. And then they would attend this class. Or we were also finding that this was really helpful with organic marketing because friends and family of these group fit instructors were sharing these posts on all of their personal platforms, which meant that we were getting more eyes for fewer ad dollars. And all we did was take some time to ask personal questions of our employees, to get a few good pictures of them and them in action on the job.
Your business depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Pontau. Each week, I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm connecting with Courtney Madeira, mother and Greenville, South Carolina resident. Courtney Madeira's professional philosophy of marketing pivots upon sharing humanity's full spectrum of emotion, appearance, and life experience through messaging that builds community and yields sales as a natural byproduct. Congrats on building stronger communities, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm really excited to discuss the importance of community building in business with you. And so why should companies prioritize community building over just directly on sales?
Well, I think from a consumer's perspective, you have to remember that we are constantly inundated by ads, whether it be on your favorite streaming service or as you're driving to work on the side of any, flat building or billboard or plastered on the side of cars now. You can't look in any direction or listen to any kind of background noise without being served an ad. And I think that people notice this and have almost gone blind to it. But what we do pay attention to are things that make us feel seen and feel connected to. And so I think from a company's perspective, there is value in investing in community building as opposed to just trying to find ways to make sales, and for seeing customers as people instead of, potential buyers. And so that's kind of how I prioritize my approach to marketing, is I always try to make sure that there's a very personal, human, emotional element to everything that I do, my call to actions and, in my design, because I think people can tell the difference between I'm being sold something and this is, a product that would help me feel better in my daily life. And so that's why I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I totally agree that the people have a sense that when they're being sold to, and it's no one really likes it. Most people at least don't like that feeling. And so I think they are looking for companies to reach out to them in a way that makes it, like I said, makes them feel seen, because it has such a different experience from like all the other content that they're being bombarded with on a daily basis. So what are some examples? Like, I'm sure you have some great stories of times when you've helped a company focus more on community and how that eventually led to more sales that they're looking for.
Sure. So one of the things that I've implemented in multiple roles that I've held is kind of putting together employee spotlights. And this started because before I was at the Greenville Community Center, Salvation Army Community Center, where I am now, I was working for a group that owned 6 hotels in South Carolina, Hilton and IHG properties. And the biggest issue that we had there was turnover with our employees. And so instead of turning to Indeed to say, what we have this role available, it, has these responsibilities and this pay, we decided to work really hard at interviewing and photographing and spotlighting our existing managers and line level employees on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, to kind of showcase who was already working with us, what kind of people they were, how they were enjoying our workplace culture, the kinds of things that they like to do outside of work. Because when you're thinking about applying for a job, you're, yes, of course, looking at, am I going to be able to do these tasks? Am I going to be able to sustain my lifestyle on this rate of pay? But you're also thinking about, when I get into this office or whatever work environment, am I going to be happy there? Am I going to like the people that I'm working with? Am I going to like the people that I'm working for? Am I going to fit in with this kind of group of people? And we saw that we were getting referrals for people to come and work for us now, based on word of mouth, which was really transformative for kind of our operation. But the great thing to me about kind of finding a strategy like that is sincerely just built on trying to uplift and give back to and give flowers to the people that are already working for us, is that I've actually done this now in my role at the Kroc Center in a different way. So if you're listening to this podcast and you think, oh, well, we don't have an issue with turnover, this doesn't apply to me. At the Kroc Center, we have group fitness classes, and we were finding that there were some classes with kind of unusual names, or, they weren't your standard Zumba, bar, spin classes. And so people really didn't know what they weren't sure if they would be comfortable in the class. So we started doing very similar employee spotlights of our instructors for these fitness classes. And so we were finding that this worked in two ways. One, our potential participants were reading these spotlights and saying, oh, well, this instructor really loves Disney and I really love Disney, so this is something that I might be interested in. And then they would attend this class. Or we were also finding that this was really helpful with organic marketing, because friends and family of these group fit instructors were sharing these posts on all of their personal platforms, which meant that we were getting more eyes for fewer ad dollars. And all we did was take some time to ask personal questions of our employees, to get a few good pictures of them and them in action on the job, and to kind of share those with our existing community and contacts.
Yeah, I love that connection between making your existing employees feel special and highlighting who they were at a human level. And so that, one, makes them feel appreciated, and two, it helps people outside the organization feel a better sense of familiarity and connection with either the business itself and they want to work for it, or, like I said, with the courses, even if they didn't understand what the exact class would be like, they knew they had a common ground with the instructor on something that was not even related to the actual
Correct.
course, but because they felt connection on a community level, on a human level, that is shared interests, that was persuasive enough to get them to try the course out. And I'm sure plenty of them, when they tried it out, went, oh, this was great. I had so much fun. And I enjoyed it even more because I know more about who I am learning from in this course. And then, like you said at the end, the amount of ad spend required is way less than, because you get this great word of mouth. And it's also, I'm sure, more effective advertising when it is word of mouth like that, because people will weigh the suggestion of someone they know, like, and trust way more than what a company says about themselves, about their own product. So
Exactly.
yeah, so I can So so if someone is listening and saying, okay, I have some great team members, I want to help them feel appreciated. I want to spotlight them to attract more people like them to my business, so they'll reduce turnover and improve your customers' experience because you have a better, more productive team. What was your approach to asking your employees to do these interviews, and what were those like? What are some things people can apply to their business if they want to do these sorts of interviews?
The first thing that I would say is to not be afraid of not doing it perfectly. I think that there can be this fear that if I'm not going to do employee, spotlights or articles or coverage, whatever you want to call it, posts, in some big, amazing way, then we shouldn't even go ahead and get started. And I don't ever think that that is the best approach. Doing what you can now and improving on that will take you to doing it extremely well, and will keep you from having kind of this paralysis that is, I'm not sure how to get started, so I'm not going to do it at all. In terms of some easy steps for getting started, I would say just carve out 30 minutes. I usually ask a few people at a time because I'm not sure who's going to get back to me at all, who's going to get back to me and say, yes, I'm interested, who's going to get back to me and say, actually, I don't really prefer to be on the internet in that way. And so I'll reach out to 3-4 people at a time, group fitness instructors, managers, really any employees. You'll find sometimes that, our janitorial staff or our front desk agents, they also have families that are very invested in them and care very much about what they're doing. And you'll find even that your customers do have an interest in people that, might not be at the top of the company. And I just ask, are you interested in doing an interview with me? I'd also like to take your picture. If you're not comfortable with me taking a picture, I'd be willing to look at, a few photos that you feel like are good and really represent who you are. Because not everyone is comfortable with having their photo taken. Sometimes I do have to post an employee spotlight and it's just photos of our facility and our participants, because the person that I'm talking to isn't someone who likes to be photographed. And I try to be very respectful of that, because they are being willing to share. And we are ultimately, like we admitted to earlier, trying to capitalize on their sharing of their story. And so I try to be very mindful that is happening. But I just ask really the same questions every time. I ask, how long have you been in the area? Because in Greenville, that's something people are very passionate about, whether or not you're from here, where you came from, because we have a lot of transplants from other areas of the country, especially the North. I typically ask, what was your work experience before you started here? I ask what your responsibilities are at your current job. I ask kind of like, what do you like about working here? And then I always ask questions like, what do you enjoy doing outside of the office? And I try to ask follow-up questions based on their responses to that, because what I found is, again, viewers are very interested in not necessarily the facts that have to do with their job responsibilities. For example, we saw our personal training sales increase dramatically by like $20,000 year to year. From 2023 to 2024, our report showed a $20,000 increase in our sales of personal training sessions. And I really think that is attributed to people connecting to the fact that one of our personal trainers is ex-military. And as soon as we ran his employee spotlight talking about, not just what he does in his personal training job, but also who he is outside, we had a lot of people who were also ex-military or who had connections to military family and friends coming in and wanting to work with him. A very similar thing happened with another one of our personal trainers who has an experience of losing 50 pounds in a short period of time, because we saw an increase of people who, felt that they could trust her, because she had had an experience that was similar to theirs, and that they would understand, that she would understand what they felt like coming in with little fitness experience, but this seemingly overwhelming goal of losing a large amount of weight.
Yeah, I think that's great insights, great actionable tips. One being mindful about people's willingness to be seen online, or have their picture taken, and then sharing their stories, and respecting people's boundaries is absolutely 100% important. And then two, understanding that they are letting you use their stories to try and monetize and bring in more business for your company. So to respect them for that, and reward them for that. And then also asking more than just the job responsibilities. Learning about their interests outside of work is really essential, because it's those non-work related things that humanize us, and that draw more of your best clients to your business, because they're going to feel like the people they interact with, even if it's the front, like I said, the front desk agents or the janitorial staff, they'll feel like they have stuff in common with them, and that builds community. And like you said before, that sense of community leads to more sales, leads to more word of mouth, that grows your business while also reducing the amount you have to spend on ads, because people will be recommending their friends and family to you because they have military background as well, or they have been through a weight loss journey themselves, and they can understand or feel more understood by the personal trainer who's been through a similar story. So that's super, super valuable. So when you're creating these stories, like, have you found there's like is it best to like do a bunch of these all at once, or are you spreading them out? Because I know people are like, oh my gosh, I have 1,000 things I'm trying to do at the same time to keep the business going. How am I going to find, instead like half an hour to talk to employees? So is there usually like are you able to like in a batch do these interviews? So if there are people talking at the same time in the same like meeting, will that help things? Or what are some ways that if people have like objections you've heard of people like who are trying to implement this sort of interviews to their process, what are some of the hurdles that they might be thinking they are experiencing? How do they can overcome those from like a logistic standpoint?
That's a great question, and I think it speaks to what I had kind of alluded to earlier, which is it can feel very intimidating to try to start something new, especially when we have so much on our plates. And I know I can only speak for my own experience in marketing, but I am the only person on my marketing team right now. I handle the website, the social media, all of our print, in-house print materials, all of our outside ordered third-party print materials. I do community outreach events. I manage our email marketing, our text system. Probably so many things I'm forgetting. I'm our photographer. And so I understand having a very full workload and thinking there's just not space on it to add something frivolous like writing employee spotlights. But I think I find it very rewarding because the appreciation for being recognized, not only for your work, but also for just who you are as a person. The feedback that I get from the people that I interview and cover is so rewarding and overwhelming and positive, and just I enjoy this part of my job. And so I make space for it, even though it's a task that I added onto my own workload. And it's probably not essential in terms of, what you would consider essential marketing tasks. I don't recommend doing batches because in my experience, that's very overwhelming. I've done it once. I interviewed all of our yoga instructors, and then I just felt like I have so much to do to write all of these articles. I'm never going to get it done. And that was very discouraging and kind of probably slowed my process down. So I only do one at a time now. And I don't expect myself to do more than one a month. And if I don't get to my one a month, then I'm not going to come down hard on myself for it. I try to be very gracious and understanding with myself, but not make excuses that say, you know, I can't do this because I'm too busy. Also, I find that the more employees I invest in kind of highlighting, the easier it gets, because there's more buy-in from the people that I'm asking to interview, because I can send them links to prior articles and they can see the kind of thing that I'm asking to do. And also, there's just, it's a very special thing for you to be able to share what you do at work with your friends and family outside of work. I don't know about you, but I have probably 6 very close friends. And if you asked me to explain what they do for work, I would do a very poor job. That's just not a part of their life that I see, because it's not the part of our lives where we interact. And so for them to be with their friends and family, they do every day, every week, 4 days a week, you can tell that it's something that takes kind of minimal effort and very little, almost really no funding. This isn't something that takes a lot of resources to make happen, but it has a huge impact in terms of company culture, because our employees are feeling very appreciated and they love these employee highlights articles. And then also there's kind of an excitement now. It used to be when I would ask if I could write about them, but it was this hesitation, like, okay, but I don't know, I'm not sure. And now if I ask someone, hey, I'd like to do an employee spot, they get excited because they know what that's going to look like. And the response has been, you know, overwhelmingly positive online and in person.
Yeah, I can see how the first one's going to take the most effort to get going. And then after that, when people see how awesome it is, and you get that rush of connection and feeling appreciated, then it just snowballs from there, and it just gets more and more effective as it goes on. So thank you so much for connecting with me today, Courtney. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please like, leave a review, and share it. If you'd like to connect with myself or Courtney, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.